Have you ever worried about slipping in the bathroom or helping a loved one get up safely? You need to know about SafetyGrip. Unlike outdated smooth metal grab bars, SafetyGrip has a unique textured design that gives a better grip and more control, especially for those with weak or tired hands. It looks great, feels secure, and installs just like a regular bar. Visit hartmobility.com to learn more.
All right, so for time's sake, it is 12 o'clock on the dot, Central Time. So we'll get started here for anybody who's joining in during their lunch break. So thank you so much for kicking off Season 4 with us today. If you're here live with us, and if you're going to be tuning in later, thank you so much for helping us kick off Season 4. Season 4 is proudly sponsored by Hartmobility with their new product, SafetyGrip. And so today I'm speaking with Kerry Flickner. Kerry Flickner is a seasoned business development strategist with over 30 years of manufacturing experience, specializing in turning innovative concepts into impactful, market-ready products that elevate daily living. As vice president at Hartmobility, he is spearheading the launch of SafetyGrip, the first grab bar specifically designed for the 60 million Americans whose grip strength is compromised by conditions such as aging, neuropathy, arthritis, Parkinson's, or post-rehab weakness. Co-developed with the KITE Rehab Institute, the KITE Rehab Research Institute, SafetyGrip's innovation replaces the antiquated 1960s era smooth bar design with a deep groove, tactile surface that delivers greater capacity for an individual to hold and maintain their grip, providing secure traction even in wet bathrooms, restoring users' confidence, safety, and dignity while blending seamlessly with modern interiors. Known for his systems thinking approach and user-centered priorities, Kerry is dedicated to launching products that enable people to flourish in their activities of daily living. As an occupational therapist, Kerry, I'm so grateful to have you on the show this season. Let's start with introductions. I know I gave a whole bio, but tell us a little bit about who you are in relationship to the company and, just a little bit more, maybe a one-liner of what you're here to do today.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. A one-liner will be challenging for me, but I'll give it my best shot. I'm Kerry Flickner. I lead business development and strategy at Hartmobility. While our latest innovation is the SafetyGrip, it brings this energy and momentum of a startup. Hartmobility is no stranger to the aging in place space. We're already known for two widely adopted products, the M-Rail, which is a bedside support rail, and something called a Toilevator, which is kind of a discrete toilet-based riser. It elevates the toilet like 3.5 inches. It offers a safer, more stable, and significantly more hygienic solution than your traditional seat top risers. But SafetyGrip is our newly introduced grab bar innovation. It marks the next step in our evolution, and in many ways, we're a startup, I guess you would say, with 15 years of experience, patents, field testing, human-centered design analysis behind us. I would say SafetyGrip is a breakthrough in safety and stability. It's designed and engineered with a purpose and provides improved function and better outcomes. As the one-liner, Hartmobility creates products that help people stay in their home that they love, safely, longer, and with dignity.
That's awesome. You were gracious enough to send me one so that I could look at it, feel it, test it out as an OT who works with older adults, and keeping them safe at home. And one of the line items I read in your bio was that it's changed what the grab bars have looked like for the last 60, 70 years, right? And I joke about this all the time. I'm like, when you think of grab bars, you know exactly what they look like, right? They're the gray steel metal bars that are everywhere in hotels and bathrooms and museums, parks, like wherever there's a grab bar, that's what you're looking at, right? And so those traditional grab bars haven't changed much since the 1960s, like you said. So, what key user needs were being overlooked for today's older adults and people with limited grip strength, which is what led to this product development?
Yeah, I would say that, other than the key user needs that have been overlooked, I guess we would like kind of back up and say we recognize there's a gap. And this gap is really what we're focused on and has inspired this creation, so to speak. And if I could just talk a little bit about how that inspiration really came about, because it wasn't just us saying, "Oh, here's a gap. Here's this smooth grab bar. We need to come up with something different." There was an evolution, a very, very important evolution that took place that got us to where we are. And I'll just take a minute to kind of give you some of that background, if I
Yeah.
could. So this inspiration, it actually came from a very personal place with the company, and that's our founder, Andy Hart. Andy Hart is a very successful entrepreneur, engineer, inventor, and he was at the time was supporting his son Julian, who was in a severe car accident, and that resulted in a spinal cord injury requiring Julian to have 24/7 care. During that journey, Andy noticed something frustrating, but all too common, that traditional grab bars are really hard to hold on to. They are, as we see, a smooth surface, especially for people with weak hands or compromised grip strength due to lots of different conditions. But in this scenario, it was injuries like Julian, and Julian trying to recover, Julian trying to transition himself from a wheelchair to the bed and vice versa, or do transitions in the bathroom. A smooth grab bar for his condition was not sufficient for him. He's a big guy. He was sliding off of this. Compromised grip strength, as we know, also occurs with aging or other conditions like Parkinson's. So watching someone you love struggle to maintain a secure hold, or seeing a caregiver try to compensate during a transfer because the person they're helping lacks the ability to securely hold on to, say, a smoother surface themselves, it makes you realize the problem isn't just the bar itself. It's this outdated design that fails to meet or to consider those needs or conditions. So the contact surface of most grab bars hasn't changed, like you said, since the 60s. It's still smooth. It doesn't offer enough tactile feedback or surface area for someone with limited strength to get really good leverage. And by the way, etched, peened, knurled is still not enough. It's still only very superficial. So that experience, understanding sparked this idea for SafetyGrip. And so what Andy did, he set out to really reimagine the grab bar from a user interface, from a user point of view. And that's where he teamed up with Dr. Jeff Fernie at KITE Research Institute, which, as you mentioned, it's the research arm of the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, world renowned. It's a Canadian institute. Together, they developed our innovative new grip surface. It's deeply textured, it's easy to hold, it's easy to grip, and it's designed specifically for weak grip capacity. And I'll use this term and flip-flop it around a lot of different ways, but it's about the capacity for someone to not grab, but to maintain a grip. And when someone can hold on to, with confidence, let's say that, everything changes. It improves safety, yes, but it also lightens the load on caregivers. It improves therapeutic outcomes, and mostly it restores a sense of independence and dignity for the user. So that's really what Hartmobility is about here. We're here to challenge these old assumptions. I'm here to disrupt this status quo, to start a new narrative, to create a new story that focuses on design for real people, real conditions, and real situations.
Quick pause. Are you caring for a loved one? Recharge inside the Aging Together Caregiver Hub, our free online community packed with expert tips, live Q&As, and peers who truly get it. Join in seconds at aging-together.com, then dive back into the show feeling supported.
I love that. I have encountered numerous situations where someone holds onto a grab bar, but they're slipping, right? Because their skin is not as grippy anymore because of the surface texture of their skin. Or I've had individuals where they have sensory deficits, whether from a nerve injury or from a stroke, whatever it may be, where they also can't always understand how tightly they need to hold onto that bar to maintain the grip, right? So what you just said is maintaining the grip after they've already made it, right? The other part with those straight, solid ones is you have to hold on pretty tight for the entire duration of your use, because otherwise it'll slip or your hand will fall off. Whereas what I've noticed with this one is I can have a very loose grip on it and my hand still doesn't move, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I think I can see where this could benefit so many people. And I know you mentioned you collaborated with the KITE Rehab Research Institute. How did working with the clinicians and the engineers there influence the final design? And then also similar to that, can you describe why the deep groove tactile surface, or why the texture rather than what you were saying, like a peened or an etched finish, makes such a difference in real world hand traction and use?
Yeah, let's see. So, working with KITE. So this goes back. We've had this design for a long time. It's been on the shelf for a long time, and it's just now coming to market. It's been patented. So I can comment on working with KITE from 30,000 feet. That's where Andy Hart could contribute more. But I do know this is that working with KITE and Dr. Jeff Fernie was obviously transformative. SafetyGrip was designed with direct input from research scientists and engineers. Their clinicians at the University of Toronto's hospital brought deep insight into biomechanics and those unique challenges that today need to be considered. And that's what we're doing here. We're saying there's challenges here. There's a huge part of our population that's neglected because we've got locked into this status quo design from the 60s, right? So these conditions aren't being considered by these particular designs. So their engineers identified the problem and then developed and validated SafetyGrip's deep groove concept, significantly improved that surface contact area, finger leverage for that greater grip capacity. It wasn't just about making a better bar. It was about identifying the problem and then proving out the solution in the lab and in real world environments. And that's kind of where we are today. And now we're fortunate enough to really trying to, my job is to educate and to create this contrast to, like, let's say we need to shift our paradigm and say, hey, there's people that need something that this isn't providing. And why is this still the status quo? Why are we still saying this is sufficient? Because it is not sufficient. And on that, let me just piggyback on why it's not sufficient and just some of the history on the design, if I may. So yes, it's true, grab bars really haven't changed since they were first introduced in the 60s. So that's 57 years ago. I was a toddler. They were originally designed for Vietnam veterans in the VA system to help with transfer. So these veterans, they have their upper body strength and they're transferring from, a wheelchair due to their disabilities. That institutional design, that, the smooth stainless steel or aluminum, that basic tubing, it's trapped in this old thinking. It's really, I say, deprived of innovation. It's built to minimum standards. and is still 57 years later the default. And it's still what you see in most homes, senior living facilities, etc. Our aging populations, those with disabilities or struggling from neurodegenerative disease, they deserve better. They deserve innovation that addresses their needs. And here lies the problem that design assumes that everyone has full grip strength, period, and full dexterity. And that's just not the reality anymore. And as you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, more than 60 million people in the US live with compromised grip strength. And if we focus specifically on aging adults, we know that grip strength declines naturally with age. In fact, as you know, it's considered a vital sign, right? Hand grip strength, HGS, serves as a fundamental metric in assessing muscle function and overall physical capability, and is specifically relevant to the aging population.
Yeah.
Then let's add on top of that, compounding, let's add on top of that conditions like arthritis, neuropathy, Parkinson's, post-rehab surgery, injury recovery, strong side stroke. It becomes even harder for someone to maintain a secure grip. So we need to move beyond just grabbing something. We need to provide them something else. And let me use this as a anecdotal story, and I'll use my father. And if he's watching this, I don't think he'll mind. He's 87 years old. He's on a walker. He's living at home by himself with his 2 dogs. He's the quintessential kind of model for this. He's already fallen once, so he's a fall risk. He dislocated his shoulder when he fell, and that has affected his strong side grip, right? He has neuropathy, and he has arthritis, and his ring finger and his pinky finger are basically useless. So he has 3 fingers. So both his physical condition and his situation in terms of how he's moving around the house, his fear of falling, is profound. And when you think of somebody who has a fear of falling, a fear of getting up just to use the bathroom, and just something I'll add into that, he may be considered incontinent, right? Because he needs to use the bathroom, but he's afraid to get up to use the bathroom because he's afraid of falling. And he probably may not really be incontinent, but he just waits too long to a point where he is. And so his health and well-being is impacted by his fear of falling. And when we can provide something that provides him more security, more dexterity in his conditions that he has, then we are changing somebody's life. When a person can't properly maintain a secure hold on a grab bar, it's not just about safety. It affects that confidence, that independence, and that dignity. So what's really been overlooked here is how real hands with real limitations interact with these products.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I think that we see a lot too, especially in acute care hospitals, where I did a lot of my fall prevention work and fall, protocols and things like that, where you're not sure if somebody, you generally know when somebody's a fall risk. In the hospital, everyone's a fall risk, but those higher fall risk patients get an additional flag in the chart, right? But you don't always know who is continent or incontinent. And a lot of times that falls on observation, right? So somebody comes in, and if they're incontinent, if they have an incontinent episode, they're marked as being incontinent. But a lot of times, like you said, it turns out that they're not actually incontinent. They just had an incontinent episode because they couldn't make it to the bathroom in time, because of various reasons, whether it was because they couldn't get up by themselves, or because they were too scared to get up by themselves, or it was because staff was waiting for the therapists to come in and assess it first, right? So many reasons. And that's a great analogy for how that can translate to one's home if they don't feel like they have the right support in place to safely get up and move around.
Right. And to be able to, so this, I'm trying to create this contrast of like something smooth and these conditions, just it wasn't serving those conditions. And yes, the smooth grab bars are, let's just say most traditional grab bars are designed to meet building codes.
Right.
But they're not designed with this user's physical needs in mind. So yes, grab bars became part of ADA compliance in 1991, so 34 years ago, and the standards were updated, I think, again in 2010. But those regulations only cover things like placement, size, weight capacity, distance from the wall, etc. But even with those guidelines, they are really just the minimum. And I think that's really important to talk about here. It's just the minimum. They don't address the changing needs of our older adult population or people with disabilities. And that's where Hartmobility and SafetyGrip really come into this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is the minimal. Another thing, since we're on the topic, is a lot of times we hear from individuals that they don't want to install grab bars because of how ugly they are, right? They're not aesthetically pleasing. If you have a very aesthetic setup in your bathroom, they don't want to put in a random gray metal bar on the wall because it's not going to look nice. And so I just have to say, these obviously look beautiful. And you can match them to whatever your decor looks like, or what your aesthetic is. So beyond safety, aesthetics was often drives the adoption rate, right? Why would people get these instead of the other ones? And it's because these look nicer, right? How did you balance that clinical functionality with a design that feels at home in modern bathrooms and senior living spaces?
Yeah, that's a great question. Excuse me. We know from many surveys, as well as, so many meetings with occupational therapists, physical therapists, in-home care specialists, skilled and unskilled, that one of the most common reasons, there is another reason that we'll address in a minute, but one of the most common reasons for a person not to adopt this type of stability product into their home is that no one wants their home to look clinical, like a hospital, or like I say, a gas station public bathroom.
Yeah.
While aesthetics certainly play a role in this adoption, our design priority was never visual appeal. It was all about function. So SafetyGrip was born from a very specific critical need, and that's to support people with compromised grip who can't rely on the smooth traditional standard designs. Our primary focus and commitment was engineering a surface that would dramatically increase that contact leverage, right? So my hand can roll into this, and now my brain is saying, yes, I've got this. I can put my fingers in, and even if I have a really small hand and I have arthritis and I have all these other conditions, my hand can lock into this. I have increased contact leverage. Leverage is grip. This is about gripping, not just grab, especially in wet and slippery conditions. So what's remarkable is that in solving that problem with these deeper grooves, these organic lines, these heavy tactile textures for this kinesthetic feedback, the form followed function. And the result turned out to be unexpectedly aesthetically pleasing and fits well into modern home designs. So that's I think a return to us saying, yes, we're on the right track here, because if it was ugly and it looked worse than this, it would just be a shame, right? Here we have the
Yeah.
solution set, and it's really going to help people, but it is junk, right? So that, what started as pure performance solution now feels warm. It feels intentional. It's complementing modern bathrooms and care environments without that cold clinical feel. In other words, we didn't set out to make it look good. We set out to make it work, and it ended up doing both. So we're seeing already adoption just based on that particular roadblock. Another roadblock we'll talk about in a minute, but that is a big one, is these aesthetics. So we're very fortunate and very grateful that, wow, this actually looks good. And I'll show you something. So we have black and white, right? And the reason we do black and white is for contrast. So when people
Right.
may have visual issues, as you know in your practice, they have visual issues. This provides that contrast. I can see it, I can find it. And we do it in matte finishes. So we have control over that. So matte black and matte white. We also have a shiny, which is a little more elegant. So this is a grab bar. This is 1 inch in diameter. So it really fits small hands. And especially if there's, arthritis, it really allows all people to hold on to this. And then this is a sample of our stability pole. We do stability poles, not just grab bars. And this is 1.5 inches, and this is what the stability pole looks like. So, we lucked out that it looks they look very nice, and that's one of the first things people notice about it.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that was one of the first things I noticed about it when you first showed it to me. It was like, wait, these are really pretty. I would not mind. I have a full, it's like a marble bathroom, and so it's like white. And if I had to put a gray silver steel bar in there, I probably would never do that, right?
Yeah.
So you said you have early adopters. What are you hearing from these early adopters, whether they're OT practitioners, facility managers, family caregivers? How has SafetyGrip changed users' daily routines, or what feedback have you gotten?
Yeah, so, this part of the company is really, again, we're a startup. So we are still in the adoption phase and yet to really glean the hard data on those types of changes. But the adoption is significant, and adoption meaning that it's being entertained, it's being brought into these key pathways to get into the hands of people. And so I can comment on those adopters, but in terms of changes yet, we still don't quite have that data. But I'll give you an example of 2 adopters, and they're pretty significant. Johns Hopkins School of Nursing's Capable program. And Capable is Community Aging in Place, Advancing Better Living for Elders. I think I have that right. Excuse me. It's nationally recognized as an evidence-based model that pairs and this is really, really important. It pairs an occupational therapist, a nurse, and a handy worker, or what we call a home modification person, to make targeted home modifications. So grab bars are among the most common. The reason they structure their program this way, as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 primary reasons that prevent adoption. And those are aesthetics, which we just talked about, and the other is installation. So I'll give you another example of that using my father. A occupational therapist comes in, he falls, he has a dislocated shoulder, etc. An OT comes in or a caseworker comes in and does a home assessment and says, Mr. Flickner, you need to pull up your carpet, remove this glass coffee table so you don't trip and fall on it, and you need grab bars and a toilet riser in your bathroom. Here's the grab bars you need. This is what you need. There you go. And hands him this work order or prescription, so to speak. What happens? My dad, and this is everybody, they don't know where to go get these things. He's got to get in his car, he's got to go drive someplace. And then the big hang up is that who's going to install it? Who's he going to find to install this? Especially install these things the right way. And what that causes is kind of an approach avoidance. And that piece of paper with everything that he needs on it ends up on his kitchen table. And I'm simplifying things here, but it ends up on his, not with my dad, it does. It'll end up on his kitchen table with his junk mail, and it'll get forgotten about, and nothing will get installed in the house. And what Capable was seen is that when people are coming home out of rehabilitation or they're coming into a home to prevent people from going back into rehab, and they give them this information, it doesn't get done, and they end up falling and back into the system, and it costs millions and millions of dollars. But if you add in this home modification person that's part of this process and this interaction with that user, with that caregiver, with their patient, when that home modification handy worker is involved in that, it completes this cycle. It completes this symbiotic process that then the user or the caregiver is not burdened with trying to figure out, where do I get this? How do I get it installed? It's taken care of and it gets done. So that's a really, really important model, and it's kind of a foundation for how we're working with everybody. We're working with home modification people. We're working with the OTs and PTs. We're working with the caregivers. We're working with the in-home care service folks, so that we make sure that we're helping that person overcome the aesthetics issue and overcome that installation issue. So their leadership, they've seen our design. We met them at the American Occupational Therapy Association where we met you. They've evaluated our samples. Now they've expressed interest in piloting the SafetyGrip as a grab bar option. And if adopted, our innovation would move straight into this intervention pathway and giving us real world outcomes and data, national visibility, while helping, of course, capable stretch their mission. We've also, in terms of early adopters, we are speaking with and working with these schools that provide education and certifications for occupational therapists, and they recognize this value proposition as a game changer for improving therapy outcomes. As you mentioned, people that you've worked with, they're slipping off. When we were at AOTA, a lot of OTs were saying, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I have to tape my bars so people don't slip off of them when they're doing their therapies. So these educational institutions, they seek the latest innovations, and we're currently preparing to provide several of our products to them for their ADL, their activities of daily living classrooms, that will be used for this next generation of therapists. This is really about posterity and that particular sector of educating this next generation. So other than working with going with the consumers, we focus on three primary segments to educate and help deliver and integrate into their particular practices. And these segments ultimately interact with the end users, the patients, the elderly or the disabled. And these are categorized as therapists and caregivers, new design, build, and architecture, and then what I was just talking about, home modification. And home modification is very important. AARP said that, I don't have these numbers right, but 95% of everyone over the age 65 wants to age at home. We want to help people age at home safely and with dignity. And the fastest growing market segment in home remodeling industry is home modifications for aging in place. The top 3 modifications that are done are grab bars, raising the toilet, and thresholdless showers. Hartmobility provides 2 of the most innovative products of those 3, our SafetyGrip and our Toilevator. And a leader in home modification for AIP, or aging in place, is a group called True Blue Home Allies, and they're dedicated to, their whole business is oriented around senior home modifications and maintenance. It's a nationwide network. They have 100 offices. It markets itself as one call does it all, really partnering with the age in place population. And we can, I highly recommend people who are looking to do this. They're all over the country. We have a great relationship with them. They're truly a trustworthy group. Otherwise, we wouldn't be partnered with them. But it's trueblueally.com. So it's TRUBLUE, the color blue, ally, ALLY, trueblueally.com. I highly recommend looking them up. Anyway, they're a new partner of ours, and they're beginning to integrate SafetyGrip into their Senior Safe at Home package. We're still in that early phase in this partnership, but the response from them is their clients are showing greater acceptance and adoption because they're realizing, they're seeing this unique value that this offers. It's safer and it's more aesthetically pleasing, and it's really making them more willing to adopt. So that's kind of a long way around to answer your question on adoption, but those are kind of how we're moving in right now, and educate and to we're not going really directly and trying to go straight at the consumer. We're really interfacing with the consumer through these folks that are advising them or making recommendations. But
I love that you're partnering with the schools on this, because that is where it starts.
Yes. So really, both of these examples really are accelerating our mission to keep older or disabled individuals safe and confident, and most importantly, at home with dignity. I'm going to keep repeating that, but that is our goal. That is our ethos.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that because it's still an early adoption phase, the statistics or metrics are still kind of, coming in. There's not a whole lot of analysis that has been done yet. But in the collection phase, have you collected any data or case studies on falls, increased confidence, or anything like that since the installations began? Or have there been any results that have been shared with you that stand out to you?
That's a good question. Again, early adoption phase. However, to tighten the link between design and outcome, we are launching an early stage study that will measure. In this study, we're in early stages of this back with KITE Institute. So when this design and research was done for the actual design, the next phase of that research and development was going to be quantifying that delta between, say, what happens with my hand on the smooth bar under wet, slippery conditions with arthritis and neuropathy and aging, compared to this. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, there's changes in leadership, et cetera, and that study didn't take place. So we're launching this early stage study. We're collaborating with them again with KITE Institute. And that will measure how much SafetyGrip improves usable grip force under wet, soapy conditions compared to the smooth. The trial will enroll 60 plus participants, clinically classified as weak grip strength, and that's going to include people living with arthritis or age-related decline. Results will give us some hard numbers to pair with fall and confidence data already coming in. So bottom line, every data point, fewer falls, lower fear scores, reducing caregiver strain, tracks back into one simple insight. When a grab bar is designed to address compromising conditions and is aesthetically pleasing, people will actually use it, and safety then becomes habit rather than hope.
Yeah, absolutely. You've touched a lot on, the ethos of the company and the brand, and that's to keep seniors, older adults, safe at home and independent with dignity, right? Where do you see grab bar technology, and more broadly, maybe just universally designed bathroom fixtures, heading in the next 5 years?
We currently have the latest bar technology, and that's dedicated to physical needs for the foreseeable future. We're way out in front here. I can't really comment on bathroom fixtures per se, so we'll just stay on the grab bar. There may be bars that will integrate sensors, AI, iPhone apps, lights, etc. We actually have a glow-in-the-dark capability with ours. We produced way back, and so we can do that. It's not very aesthetically pleasing when it's not dark, but we can do that. But these new technology-based bars are going to be expensive. So I think, when especially if we're looking at universal design principles, which I think is very, very important. If we're going to consider universal design principles, the first of the 7 principles of universal design is equitable use. So this is where I say that we're committed to universal use and universal access. When we start getting into these really high tech bar technologies, then they're not going to be reachable by most of the population. They won't be able to afford it. So technology is expensive, but we're committed to creating these innovative products, but they need to be affordable and accessible for everyone, and that is by definition a universal design. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I know I've seen a lot of different technologies out there, some amazing technologies for helping people in their homes or in facilities. But for the common person that's really just trying to move through their bathroom from one place to another safely, or move through their home, or get out of their chair, or get out of their bed and get to their bathroom, I think we really have the corner on what is missing and what the solution is at this stage.
Yeah. I'm curious on the glow in the dark, how that looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything you've seen glow in the dark, when the light shines, then lights turn off and it's there. It's kind of green. But when it's in the daylight, it's kind of yellow, so
Yeah.
I'm not trying to diminish it at all. It's a wonderful product. We, as we're in our bloodstream with this company. We are altruistic. We are trying to help people, and that comes from Andy Hart, our founder. And we have an amazing culture, but we do live in a capital model, right? So we're really trying to make sure we have that balance. And if people want the glow in the dark, we can make the glow in the dark, for sure. But we need to make 250 of them to be economically feasible for us. So if there's a demand for that, we will certainly bring that back into our manufacturing processes. But it could have a place. I think we need to explore it more, do some more studies, do some more surveys, and working with people like you is just really, really important. We're still really trying to understand the persona of the folks who we're working with, and if that is that a need that they have, and does that help them, then we will most definitely jump right into that and provide that.
Yeah. I'm not a home modifications expert, but I know very many of them. And I'm sure that if you ask them, they could come up with a situation where that would be very helpful.
For sure. Yeah.
So like you said, there's a lot of great technology coming out on the market. You do have some of the latest tech, especially when it comes to the grab bar technology right now. And of course, an OT who is making the recommendations will provide recommendations on positioning and all of that kind of stuff. But for a listener who wants to make, let's say, one high impact safety upgrade at home this month, this week, today, what should they consider when they're choosing a grab bar?
Good question. Let me answer it this way. In choosing the grab bar, so choosing a grab bar is going to be, let's not talk about, I don't want to say, it's easy, choose SafetyGrip. There's your answer. No. And choosing the grab bar, so length of the grab bar, what the application is, where is it going to go? And the best way to do that, I'll say number one, is get a proper home assessment by a certified professional that specializes in safety assessments related to aging in place or fall prevention. Start with the bathroom, especially near the shower or the toilet where slips are most likely to happen. I think CDC says that 80% of bathroom injuries are due to falls. So wet, slippery, conditions and other conditions, and you can comment this better than me, and I'm probably not going to say this right, vasovagal syncope, sitting down, standing up, bending over to brush your teeth and standing up again. I mean, there's all kinds of conditions that are occurring in that space. So focus on that space. Work with a CAPS certified installer, and CAPS is a certified aging in place specialist, and helping select where the bars or the stability pole should be placed, what the length of that should be. Because there's a lot of nuance in that bathroom. Are you going into tile? Are you going into a hollow wall? Are you going into a fiberglass insert? So you just don't want to bring any handy person in, because if it's not mounted properly, then there's going to be a problem. So you need a certified installer, and they're called CAPS certified aging in place specialist. True Blue Home Allies, fantastic. That's what they do. Very professional and trained, and I'm only plugging them because we have worked with them. And in your home, you need somebody that really understands your needs, and that this needs to be done properly, not just like, oh yeah, I can put an anchor in a wall and screw this into the wall. That's not what you want to do. Number 4, I would say choose modifications that not only meet your needs today, but those needs could change in 6 months. So I would really try to open up and say, hey, I might need to raise my toilet in 6 months or a year, and just go ahead and get that particular that modification done. That's how I would approach it. In terms of selecting the actual brand or that product of grab bar, of course, I suggest the safest and the most aesthetically pleasing one, and that would be most definitely the SafetyGrip.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful. Before we start wrapping up and start taking questions, if there are any, if someone's listening today that's ready to explore SafetyGrip for themselves or a family member or a client, what's the best first step? And do you have any resources for our Aging Together community?
Sure. If you'd like to learn more or speak with somebody from the Hartmobility team, that's what we're here for. If you want to speak about your specific needs, just head over to a link that I believe you'll provide with this podcast. It's www.hartmobility.com. Fill out a form there, and one of our team members will be in touch to help with whatever you need. And we are here to support. We're dedicated to this process. If you mentioned that that you heard about us in this podcast, then we really, really want to support you. And when it comes to home modifications or anything that you're going to be doing in your home, we have that expertise. We're not just a site that's hustling a grab bar. We are highly integrated into what is needed, why it's needed, where it should go. We work with the home modification people very, very closely. And if it's not True Blue and there isn't a True Blue Home Ally in your area, we have other relationships with other installers. And so we can really help guide and support you through this process. And that's the kind of company that we are.
That's awesome. Thanks, Kerry. I think we can start taking some questions or comments, but you just made a good point about installers. And I guess I want to start with one of my own first questions is, can any contractor install these, or do they have to be someone who's trained? Like, is there any sort of requirements when it comes to, like, can I just order this on your website and just install it?
You can do that. And there are people that know how to drill a hole in a wall and put an anchor in, but is it the right anchor? Is it in the right location? So yes, there are people that can just do this, but there's some nuance to that. And that's why I recommend a certified installer, because they understand those nuances. They've been trained in grab bar, specifically grab bar installation, and all of those variables that are involved in that. But yes, I mean, you could go to Home Depot, buy a grab bar, and drill holes in your beautiful marble tile. And I hope it goes well for you, so that you get it right. So that's why we recommend that certified. But yes, any handyman can drill the holes and put an anchor in, but you want to use the right anchors, right?
Yes.
This needs to stay in the wall. If you put your weight on it, if you don't have the right anchors, you don't use an anchor that you use for your picture frame, right? There's certain anchors for certain applications, and these folks know how that works.
That's probably similar to just, pushing a suction grab bar onto the wall and knowing that it's going to fall, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a comment here from someone who says, I think this would be a great thing for my grandmother who is staying with my mom and she's disabled and needs help with this.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Give us a call, please. We can help you, most definitely.
yeah. And make sure we get a home safety assessor in there first, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and let us help you with that as well. We
Yeah.
have a network that we're building, and even if we don't know somebody, we will put the effort in to help you find somebody. That's
Yeah.
the customer service that we provide.
Right. And if you're in the Chicago area, I also have a directory of our local CAP certified home modification
Oh,
specialists and
excellent.
happy to refer you as needed.
Please.
Next question is, what do you think could be the future of your industry as we will see a very large number of baby boomers getting older and needing your products?
That is already happening. Yes,
Yeah.
exponentially, all over the world, all over the world. 25% of Japan's population is 75 or older. So we're looking at, the EU and Canada, we're looking in the range of 20 to 25% is growing for that population of, say, 65 and older. So this is exponential growth. And so what I see for the future of our industry is that we need to make sure, from my position, that we have the resources available, we're communicating and educating, and not just to the end users or those caregivers, but all of these entities that interface with them. So the home modification people, the practitioners, the OTPTs and caregivers, the architects, designers, all of those folks. We are in a full court press right now and making sure that we're getting this education out there so we can get this product in that we know I'll say it the other way. We want to get this in because we know what the standard status quo is that people are just by default using because they don't know that this exists. And that's why we're here, because we need to educate that there's something better, there's something safer, there's something that's going to provide you substantially more security and dignity than this product that is antiquated, quite honestly. I mean, it works for some people. And I'll just add a little twist to that. There are products out there that are smooth, like this, and they're super fancy. These are for, your $50,000 bathroom remod. They are super fancy, and they're all smooth, and they're swirly, and they got all these really cool designs, but they're still smooth. So, especially in a bathroom, a slick surface, dry, isn't conducive to a secure grip. So I caution people if you're going to integrate something into your bathroom for stability, those things are very fancy, and I think there's people that just want that, but I encourage people to really consider what their future looks like. Where are they going to be in 5 years? Where are they right now? And in a soapy, slippery condition, is that sufficient?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you touched on this too, but like as someone's needs evolve, how do you anticipate this product evolving?
Yeah, our particular product evolving as the needs evolve. Let's see. So that's a great question. We're we're really trying to get in front of the needs right now that we know exist, and that's through our research at KITE. As the needs change and evolve from where they are today, I plan on making sure that our R&D group and our relationship with research institutes stay in alignment with that trend as it occurs, so that we can continue to bring the innovative products that we're bringing for the reason that we're bringing them in. So we hope to stay aligned with any of those changes in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we part ways, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and the team at Hartmobility for believing in our mission here at Aging Together and for supporting our show this season.
Thank you very much for having us.
If anybody would like to hear a repeat of this entire conversation, it will be live on all of our favorite podcast platforms tomorrow.
Aging, illness, and injury can make the simplest movements feel daunting. That's why SafetyGrip was designed with compassion at its core. Its deep, textured surface offers real control, especially for hands weakened by arthritis, neuropathy, or stroke, helping restore not just safety, but dignity. Because when you or someone you love needs support, it should feel like someone's there to help. Visit hartmobility.com to learn more.